Hello and welcome to my high-tech studio here. I will have this PowerPoint posted on our Teams page, but I just wanted to go through it just to give you some explanation and clarification. I know you have a work period today to work on several things. Friday is also going to be a work period as well. And this project is due Tuesday, March 15th. Remember, that's happening in place of a test. And yes, you will all get to present it. So I will do a sample presentation of what we're looking for a final project. And I do want to clarify, I know in the rubric I said PowerPoint, but that's an old person's version. Yes, I know many of you are more familiar with Google Slides. So for sure, any kind of format presentation like that is acceptable. So thank you. If you have any questions about that, continue to message me on Teams. Okay, and before I begin, I did read your reflections yesterday, very good with those organizational skills. The good news is many of you feel that you're doing very well in your organizational skills, which is great. Yeah, so, but we all have room for improvement, teachers as well. So that's the whole point of this, is to see what we can work on. And another common thing is everyone has a different system. So in that checklist, some of you said, I don't use a planner, but I'm getting by without it. I don't think I need one. Yeah, I agree as well. Everyone has a different organizational style. Some of you said, I may look like I'm disorganized, but I know what I'm doing. It works for me. So yes, so that's also why we're not doing a test. I don't believe that there's one correct answer on how we organize and function. It's all about learning what works for us and using that. So that's why I think it's important that we all examine what works for us, where we can improve, and then share that with others so we can get ideas of what works for each other. So that's a little bit of an explanation. Okay, so here we go. So here's the project presentation. Unit 2, Organizational Styles Project. This is what works for me. So I do want to introduce this. This is the slide that I will post on Teams. If I was there today, we would have been talking about this in class. So the first thing I want to have in your PowerPoint slide is this quadrant. Oh, quadrant means 4. There's your math lesson. So when we plan and prioritize, there's 4 areas, and it'll be posted on Teams that you can read it a bit better. So this quadrant is important and urgent. This quadrant is important, not urgent. This quadrant is not important, urgent. And this one is not important, not urgent. So I've combined different sources about what goes in what each. So the important, non-urgent says things you must get done now. So that the keyword there is crisis. This means you're in crisis mode. Now, 5%, ideally, your target time is 5%. You don't want to be in crisis mode more than 5% of the time. If you are, this is a high stress area. You're in crisis. So if you are in that crisis area more than 5%, you're probably struggling or not managing things well. And that's going to affect every area of your life. So that would be things like crisis, pressing problems, or rush deadlines. If you've left things to the end and now suddenly you're trying to do your science fair project the night before, you are in crisis mode. So we don't want to be in that quadrant more than 5% of the time. This is where we want to be most of our time. 75% of our time should be in the important, non-urgent. That's productivity. So that is where you are planning, prepping, preventative. So you're working ahead. So your science fair project, you didn't do everything the night before. You have been working a little bit each night. So long-term planning, prepping, preventative activities, personal growth, and relationship building. Most of our time should be in this area. So if we're there, we should never really be in crisis mode because we've been working long term a little bit each night. Then this one, distraction, 15%. So I don't like really the term I have, like from our notes, I have the resources I had says things you think are important, but really aren't. But I think that's kind of misleading, and they're called distractions. But those would be, I would say basically, those are things that we can't avoid. Interruptions, emails, calls, meetings. Now, maybe that's an older person version, but there are things that are going to come up that you can't avoid or can't control. So they're not important, but they are urgent. And I feel like that's those things that you can't avoid. So 15% of our time. And I think we have to realize that we have to realize as best, even if we are productive and plan, there's going to be some things that come up that we can't avoid. And then the last one, our time wasters, not important, not urgent, things that are done in excess and are waste time. Now that's not bad. You need to have, it says about 5% of your time. You need to waste some time. You need to relax. You need to unwind. We talked about stress management, but it should only be 5%. If 75% of your time is time waster, then you're probably going to be in crisis mode a lot. So socializing, time wasters, calls, emails, entertainment. Those aren't bad things, right? You need to have that as part of your life, but they shouldn't be all of your life or else you'll be in crisis. Okay, so I do want your first slide to fill that in and be specific. So I said for me personally, important and urgent crisis. I would say maybe this week, there's been a big change of plans for me this week. This week did not go as I expected. So I did have everything planned, but I did notice there was some tests this week. I caught mistakes last minute. So I'm redoing my tests last minute and having to get them photocopied into the school when I'm not there. And, like I said, change of plans. You've noticed that I made a long-term plan and I've changed it as it went through. So yes, I've probably been in this mode more this week than I have normally because of an unexpected change of plans. Then productivity. This is usually where I try to spend most of our time. So any free time I have, my preps, my before school, after school at nighttime, making my lessons, updating my websites, my prepping, my planning, my posting, photocopying, posting things online. And then in addition to schoolwork, working out daily and just cleaning and organizing, keeping my life in order. So those are just my basically daily functions. Distractions. I can't go into detail, but there are interruptions that come up as teachers. I haven't been at school this week, but there's still been things that came up at school that I have had to deal with even though I'm not there. So that's all I'll say about that at that moment. And obviously we get nonstop emails or unexpected meetings or things we have to attend to that aren't part of our daily lesson plan. So yeah, as teachers, there's definitely things that come up, and I'd say that 15% of our day, and those are the unexpected things that come up that we have to deal with that we didn't know were going to happen. And then time wasters. I do like to go to Jets games. I don't know if that's a time waster. I guess it is now because they keep losing. But like I said, you need to have some hobbies and activities. But Jets games, the phone and messaging. Oh, I forgot to add a slide to my PowerPoint. I just thought of it now. Your phone does track your activity. I don't think I use my phone a lot, but I'm shocked sometimes when I look at the usage and data numbers. I'm like, oh, I thought I was on my phone for 5 minutes. Was it really 45 minutes? So that is interesting. And then Netflix, Apple TV. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't, but I do have Apple TV free for 3 months with my new phone. So I have been trying to watch some shows. But you need to have some of that, right? You can't be 100% productivity because you will burn out and be too stressed. So you need to have some of these time wasters. Okay. So in terms of my organizational systems, I have a lot, and it has definitely changed since COVID and the pandemic. So a website, I never had a website pre-COVID, but I love it. I use it as my daily planner, and I use it for due dates. On my blackboard in the wall, I took it down now, but I used to write all my due dates and deadlines on the blackboard with chalk. I've now come into modern technology, and this is such an effective way for me to organize and to get that information to my students. So this has been a big change, and I love my website. I update it, and like I said, I start each class looking at the website. That's more so for my benefit and yours as well. This keeps me so well organized. I love using my website. My agenda. I've always used my agenda, and I have a specific way to use it. All of my marking and test and projects, that's the only thing I put into my agenda. My homework that comes in that I need to mark is marked, highlighted in yellow. My test and projects are in purple. So I flip ahead. How many tests do I have? I know that I need to make them a week ahead. How much marking do I have? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of marking I have Monday night. So sometimes I'll try to pre-mark if I see I have a lot coming in, because I know that that's not realistic to mark all that in one night. And I always get my work marked and returned the next day. So this, I love my agenda use. That's how I use it. Only thing that goes in there are my marking and my test and projects. And then my phone notes is where I do my daily plans. I do have a personal one. I didn't post that because that's personal, but I live off of this. I make a plan for the week. I look at everything I have going on school-wise and socially and other things and any commitments I have. And then I can see which nights are busy, which ones are free, when I know I need to work ahead of time to make my life manageable. And then I actually do have an old school calendar. I actually have never used the calendar that comes with my phone. I love the calendars, and I love the Toronto Blue Jays. It is empty right now. March did not start off exactly how I thought it would, but I would then fill it in with everything that I have to keep track. And what works for me, like I said, that works for me. But the problem is it works well for me. I know what to check when things are coming up and when deadlines are coming. The challenge is, though, it's like 3 or 4 different methods. I have to look at my phone and my website and my calendar at home. And a lot of things are technology based. It only works if my phone and technology and I have access to Wi-Fi. And what changes? This works for me right now. And I've developed this through COVID. Learning environments. This is my school one. My school one is not great right now, and that's because of COVID. We've had to go to the 2 meter distancing. We've had to spread people apart. I've removed every personal item I have to make room for you and the students. Plus, now we have to share. So Mr. Richardson's coming in. This is the little area Mr. Richardson and I have to share. So that's challenging. I would use the front table for all my stuff. This is all I have. This is my hand-in folder. My calculus stuff, I teach out of a box for calculus. So I'm really having some challenges this year with space, and that's just due to COVID. So what works well? When I work at school, it's good because I have access to everything, my books, my notebooks, my binders, technology. Limitations, I don't have space. Challenges, the fact that the science class is hidden here in my prep. And that's not something mean, but I don't ever have time where I'm in my room with no students in it. So I can't watch videos or do personal things in there. So I always have people around me. So that's a challenge. And also for Mr. Richardson, he can't teach science in his room. He has to come down and find a new way to work in a spot that's not its own. So we're all having challenges with this COVID rearrangement. And things I can do, just try and be as organized as best as I can and to find more space for my stuff, but that's just not possible right now. My learning environment at home. This is what it looked like when I worked from home when the pandemic first hit. It was chaos. My house was just books and binders and papers, and it was out of control, and it was chaos. And that was not working well. Then when we did remote learning last year in May 2021, I got a little bit better. My friend taught me to make a standing desk out of an ironing board. I was much more organized, and I loved my ironing board desk. And now my home environment, I know it's not great. Yes, I set up my workspace in front of my TV, and I know that's not ideal, but I love it. The problems is it's very dark. I don't like a lot of light. It's too dark. I'm over 40. This is bad for my back. I actually had to go to my chiropractor because I was working at home from my couch. So what works? I like it. And I like being near the TV. I like having sports and the news on in the background. The limitations, it's too dark. It's bad for my posture and it's not enough space. So yes, I probably should set up at a table and a desk and that would be better, but I've tried it and I just don't like it. This actually does work for me. And I could, like I said, I know I can do things differently, but I actually have found a system that works. Okay, so that's what we're looking for the project. I hope that helps. I'll post that online. Message me if you have questions. I know you all have different styles, and that's the whole point. There's no one right or wrong way. So I'm just curious to see what works well for you. And maybe by seeing other people's workspace, their planning systems, their organization system, and their quadrant planning, that will help us all improve in the future.